Swimming like a shark in a shrimp tank. Big fish, small pond in the shrimp tank.
Welcome back to another episode of the Shrimp Tank. We come to you virtually from Seattle and the entire Pacific Northwest. Listen, if you want to learn how to start, grow, or run a successful business, you are in the right place. This is where we say street smarts and book smarts collide. Hello again, everyone. I'm Dan Weedin, and I'm joined by my co-host, the incomparable Michelle Bomberger. Our guest today is Brent Schlosstein, founder and senior partner at Alera Group. Brent's an entrepreneur and recognized employee benefits expert who is focused on building high-performance health plans for progressive and employee-focused organizations. As a founder and senior partner at Alera Group, Brent's responsible for driving growth and building a world-class consulting organization. Today, the Alera Group is one of the largest privately held insurance brokers in the United States. And being in the insurance industry myself, that's a really, really big deal. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. Brent holds a bachelor's degree in economics from my alma mater as well, the University of Washington, and is one of just 300 healthcare consultants in the U.S. to be accredited by Health Rosetta. In his spare time, Brent continues to work on his golf game, like me, where one day he plans to shoot his age. We may have to talk a little bit about that as well. Welcome, Brent. Everyone, you can find us wherever you get your podcasts. We're on iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, Stitcher, and of course, YouTube. You might say we are ubiquitous. Now, Brent, we're going to come to you in just a second. Before we bring him on, hello, Michelle.
Hey, Dan, good to see you.
Good to see you. As we record this, I'm looking outside. The sun is out, at least for right now. It's beautiful. It makes me think that we've just passed the summer solstice and we're heading deep into July. This time of year, I try to do a PSA, Michelle. I don't know if you knew this, but the time period between Memorial Day and Labor Day is the deadliest time on probably North American roadways. Were you aware of that?
I wasn't, but I suppose it's not surprising with the road trips in the summer and kids being out of school. It's crazy.
And road rage goes up. Believe it or not, people are tend to be more in a hurry. There's more traffic. There's more construction. I saw something that Seattle has the highest time is sitting in commuting and the planet probably. I don't know. But all of that leads, as I mentioned, I'm in the insurance industry. So is Brent. People often wonder why their insurance rates sometimes go up, especially on personal insurance. Well, things like this period of time are those reasons. And I know we're going to talk a little bit about insurance today, but tell me from your perspective as a small business owner, the challenges that you have, or maybe the good, maybe they're both the good and the bad with insurance.
Yeah, I mean, there's 2 times a year where we hit insurance numbers and kind of hold our breath every time because you just never know what you're going to get when you go out to the market and try to renew. So we've got toward the tail end of the year, beginning of the year, we've got our healthcare benefits, which is always a complete crapshoot from my experience.
Yeah.
Again, we have a very small group, and so it makes it challenging. And then we just wrapped up our more robust kind of company-wide insurance. And I was talking to someone recently about insurance as sort of a strategic risk mitigation tool and like all the different things that you should have now, because it's not just that general liability insurance. So you have your cyber and your employee practices, and it goes on and on and on, it seems. So anyway, it's a tough time when you're sort of holding your breath, hoping it comes back in a budget that you planned for.
So before anybody tunes out going, oh my God, they're going to talk about insurance. Let me stop because we've got Brent this is going to be really interesting. My world is a lot around business succession, life insurance, disability, long-term care. I do business continuity and rapid response consulting. Brent is an expert, as you heard in his bio, around employee benefits. So, Brent, I want to bring you on at this point. First of all, by welcoming you, thank you for being on the show. We're excited to have you. I'm excited to learn more about your golf game. But first, let's talk a little bit about employee benefits and insurance and maybe the state of where we find ourselves, at least in the state of Washington.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm super excited to talk to you about employee benefits. And typically, when we talk to our clients about employee benefits, I would say 85–90% of the conversation is around the health plan and the rising costs and what's behind all those costs. And then we talk a bit about dental and vision, disability, and retirement plans after that. But in the state of Washington, it varies from state to state, but in the state of Washington, if you're under 50 employees, you really just have a couple of different options to buy your health plan. You can buy your health plan directly from one of 5 different insurance companies. By the way, when I got into this business over 30 years ago, there were 19 different insurance companies in the state of Washington that you could buy a health plan from. And I can also remember a day when the rate for a single employee back in the late 80s was less than $100 for a extremely rich medical plan. Those days are long gone, and we've got some clients now whose rates are over $1,000 a month for a single employee. But nonetheless, we can talk about what goes into those numbers and how those numbers came to be. But if you're a small employer, you can buy from directly from one of the 5 insurance companies we have left, and or you can join a multi-employer association, maybe somebody like the Association of Washington Business, the Master Builders Trust, and there's a whole host of multi-employer health benefit plan offerings that could be advantageous depending on your industry, your employee demographics.
Yeah, it is amazing how limited it is, again, when you have a small group. So you mentioned the under 50. What does it look like for the over 50?
The over 50 marketplace is, I think, the most exciting segment of the marketplace. That's where we spend, I would say, most of our time. We've had clients as large as 40,000 employees. That was kind of an anomaly, but most of our clients are in the 50 to a couple thousand employee range. I like to say we bring Fortune 500 consulting down to the mid-market. The companies like Boeing and Amazon and Nordstrom and Costco, et cetera, they've got things pretty much nailed down. But the mid-market employers typically don't have any kind of direction. Typically, HR and the CFO are involved in the health purchasing decisions. And it's been kind of the same old for a long, long time. What we find is we set up our firm in a way that we think is transparent. It's about doing the right thing for our customers and setting a good example for our community. So for one of the things that we have focused on for many, many years is not working on a commission basis. So in most cases, insurance agents get paid a commission that's built into the premium rates. That translates into more revenue every single year if your health plan rates continue to go up. If you're over 50 employees, we can, if we're your broker, or your current broker could do it if they chose to, they could carve out all the commissions out of all the insurance rates and all the programs that are in place and just charge a fee. And we typically just charge a flat retainer for the work that we do. And that it's amazing the types of solutions that get brought to the table when the total premium involved isn't a basis for your consultant's compensation.
So I want to dive into that a little bit later because that is a unique model, but I do want to bring this up because it was the question I had in my head. It is an election year. It's a presidential election year, and we have we have the talking points that we've had around the economy and security and all of that. Healthcare is always one of those. Now, it might not be at the forefront like it has been in the past. There's other things going on as well. But how, where from a national standpoint, what are the challenges for healthcare in our country? And I remember that
How
was
much
a
time do you
large
have?
question. But narrow it down maybe to the top one. But what do you see maybe as the biggest challenge and maybe a solution?
In my view, one of the solutions is better diet and more exercise.
Yeah.
It's plain and simple. Our food intake and our nutrition is relatively poor, and we don't exercise enough. Those two things alone could save probably billions. And they're simple, but they're challenging in their own ways, right? I vividly think that we will have a national healthcare system in this country in probably 10 to 20 years from now. And I think it's going to be because employers are going to throw up their hands and say, we're out. Now, that will move into a system and a platform, I think, that will entail those having insurance and those not having insurance. It'll be a kind of a two-tier system, kind of like the way it works in Canada. About 90% of Canadian companies buy a supplemental plan that supplements the Canadian healthcare system. That's, I think, what we're going to have in the US 10 to 20 years from now, unless we start buying insurance in different ways, eating better and exercising, and doing just a lot of different things than what we've been doing in years past.
Yeah, I think there's a mix. I appreciate you sharing that perspective because you see it from a very different lens than the rest of us see it. And partly why I really wanted to have you on the show, because I do think you bring a really unique perspective. You mentioned that, you know, most of us as business owners don't really have guidance, right? Like you're reaching out and it's like, well, you can talk to these. I mean, it really is, you feel completely lost in the process and you feel completely out of control of the process as well. Something that was mentioned early on was that you all work with progressive and employee-focused companies. Can you tell me, you know, what that looks like? Something I've been talking about is how all these employment regulations, businesses are like, oh my God, they're taking all these employment things away from me. I can't do non-compete. But ultimately, this is good for employees. So it's hard for business, but it's good for employees. And I'm wondering how you see that kind of a balance in your work around companies that want to do the right thing.
I say progressive employers, and what I mean by that, generally speaking, is HR and HR leaders in the world. I know need to have a seat at the table that are making decisions around the company. And so I'm past president of the largest human resources association in the state of Washington. The largest SHRM chapter, as it's called. That was also one of the 20 largest SHRM chapters in the nation. And then I've been in this business for 30 some odd years. And the businesses that have their HR directors or their HR managers sitting at the table making decisions along with the CFO, the COO, and the CEO or the president, those businesses are competing better. They're attracting talent better, and we were seeing them grow. And those are the type of employers that are our clients, and those are the kinds of clients that we're looking to work with in the future.
So I'm curious, you mentioned you've been in this business for 37 years. Have you seen that shift over that period, the role of HR? Have you seen it shift dramatically?
I actually haven't. Unfortunately, I've seen the world of HR has become massively challenging and has become very, very specialized. So there's a lot, as has, you know, Major League Baseball and all sorts of, you know, sports and things of that nature has become very specialized. You never see a pitcher throwing a no-hitter all the way through 9 innings very often because the pitcher never gets there. They have relievers come in. So I haven't seen too many businesses. I think some of our clients that are ESOPs have their HR leaders at the table. And certainly the larger organizations where there's a CHRO involved or an SVP of HR involved at the table, those businesses are thriving as well.
Well, this is an incredibly interesting conversation. I have much more to talk about, but we've got to pay the bills really quickly, Brent. We're going to take a short break to hear from today's Spotlight sponsor. And when we come back with our guest, Brent Schlosstein, for our Hot or Not section of the show, we're going to find out if employee benefits is a good place or not to have a career anymore. Don't walk away. We will be right back with more of the Shrimp Tank.
At Equinox, we believe in the power of law to give business leaders the freedom and confidence to go boldly into the unknown. Entrepreneurs don't trust that lawyers can be affordable, accessible, or offer a strategic advantage. Law feels like a complicated cost that only the megacorps can afford, so they often go at it alone. We imagine a world where entrepreneurs have the same strategic advantage of law as the megacorps. Equinox makes it possible for all business leaders to have a general counsel on their team to support both strategic and tactical legal needs, knowing where you've been and where you're going, and guiding you on how best to achieve your goals, while protecting what you've built, with an all-inclusive, fixed-price legal solution tailored to your business. There's no more worry about how much legal will cost, or if you'll even get a response. Instead, you have a relationship with your legal team, access to legal support whenever you need it, and the freedom and confidence to take your business boldly forward. Our relationship starts with a complimentary business health assessment. Complete the 5-minute survey at equinox.law, and you'll immediately get a 30-page report to help you and your team prioritize the legal infrastructure you need to move your business forward. Plus a complimentary consultation with our corporate counsel to walk through the report together and understand what your business needs now and for its future. Now's the time to invest in your business and go boldly forward with legal on your team. Equinox Business Law Group, strategic legal counsel for all.
Welcome back to the Shrimp Tank, where we interview the best and brightest CEOs and business thought leaders in the greater Puget Sound area and beyond. I'm Michelle Bomberger here today with our guest, Brent Schlosstein of the Alera Group. For our next segment, Hot or Not, let's get going.
Okay, Brent, I know you've seen or listened to the show. You know this is where Michelle and I pepper you with questions about business, about life. We might bring in some golf. We might bring in some Husky stuff. Who knows? But we're going to start with the insurance industry and the employee benefits. You have 4,300, I think, as you said, employees, which is remarkable for a privately owned business. Hot or not, and a career in the insurance industry.
A future career for somebody new?
I think for some, yeah.
Yeah, I think on the employee benefit side of things, certainly, and I think even on the property casualty side of things, which I don't know a lot about, but we've got tons of folks that are been fabulous in that industry.
Okay, well, and people are looking at careers, and that is, the insurance industry has always been there. It's always going to be because of what it does. Let me ask you this kind of as a follow-up, because you mentioned that you don't do commissions, and that is unique. I've seen a few other companies do that, but that is unique. Talk a little bit about why you feel that that's important to both the client and the employee.
We're trying our very best to keep health plan premiums low. We don't want to drive them higher. In fact, the solutions that we bring to the table when we're not working on a commission are in some cases different than what our competitors are bringing to the table, because they're solutions that can reduce the cost of healthcare and provide better benefits for employees than your typical PPO plans today. You got to remember that if you look at all men, women, and children in this country, outside of those folks on Medicare, 65% of the population doesn't even have claims of $1,000 every year. Strangely enough, right? You've got another 25% of folks that have claims between $1,000 and $5,000, and it's really only the top maybe 10 or 12% of the population that have claims over $5,000. So why not in some cases, why not buy less insurance from the insurance company and create a vehicle that can provide better benefits for 85, 90% of your non-critically ill folks.
Wow, fascinating stats. That's really interesting. Thanks for sharing that. All right, I'm going to take a different bend here. Hot or not, business roll-ups and business consolidation.
I would say that's still very hot.
Okay, and I want you to expand on that a little bit because we didn't talk about your entrepreneurial journey in the first part. And so I wonder if you can share a little bit about the experience of going from a kind of a small partnership kind of business into the shift into the Alera Group.
Well, let's see. We started getting offers from all the national firms in 2010, and we just said, no. We don't want to be you. We built our company because of you. But at the end of the day, we felt there was room in the marketplace for a new national broker that had a different perspective on the way to do business, and that's how the Alera Group was born. We were one of the 24 founding firms in 2017. Primarily employee benefit related firms got together, and since then we've grown dramatically, for sure. And again, half of our revenue is property casualty revenue now. I think we have built a company that still has the client at heart. We're still contributing back to our communities and making it a better place. It was way harder to build a brand new national firm, but we've got a hand in our future. We can help decide what happens and how we take care of our customers, and that's frankly the most important part of what we do.
So I've often been asked, you probably have been too, how did you get into the insurance business? And I always say by accident. I mean, it was complete accident because I don't really know anybody, even those who had parents who said, I want to be in the insurance business when I grow up. I don't think that happens much. What's your origin story into insurance?
I'm that one guy in the entire world just about that went straight into insurance right out of college.
Well, no, I did too. I did too. Yep. So there's two of us.
There's two of us, and we're both Huskies, for God's sakes. So long story short, my dad was a Aetna insurance group rep on the health plan side of things way back in the late 50s, early into the 60s. He did get hired by an insurance brokerage firm that was at the time one of the largest in the world. And he unfortunately, though, passed away from leukemia when I was a little guy in 1971. And I didn't know what Dad did, right? So when I was in college at the University of Washington, I went to my mom, hey, Mom, what should I do? I'm looking for an internship. And she said, well, you might want to, hit up Johnson and Higgins, otherwise known as J&H back in the day.
Yeah, I remember that.
And I went over there and talked to them, and they said, no, we don't hire our kids out of college. We typically hire them from insurance companies. So check out an insurance company, which I didn't do. I ended up working in Alaska and Dillingham with a lot of salmon, frankly. That helped pay the bills. But after I was done with school, I did go back to Johnson and Higgins, and at the time they were developing a kind of a broker associate program for newbies, and that's when they did start hiring kids out of school. And so I had a nice break. I was in a class of about 8 others, and that's how I got into this business.
A great story, really great story. Thanks for asking that one. All right, hot or not, we're going to get into summer fun. Summer cornhole tournaments. Hot or not?
Super hot. I love it. I am the proud winner of last year's cornhole tournament that you and I are part of, Michelle.
Yeah, so I know that you enjoy the outdoors, and we the three of us are all improvisers, not necessarily in the same group, but Brent and I got to participate in a improvisers cornhole tournament, and he's the champion.
Yeah.
So
lots of fun.
Well, that leads to my next question. I'm not even going to do it as a hot or not because I know the answer is hot. We all are in the same networking group, and it's a national networking group. It's our region. We're in different groups, but can you just talk about, from a business standpoint, the power of networking, the power of referrals? Because what I still feel, Brent, is business has always been and will always be about relationships. No matter what AI or any technology, it's still about who you know, not in a bad way, but in a very positive way. Would you agree?
Completely agree with that. I've stayed very close to a number of my school buddies that I've known. I've still got buddies that I've known since third grade that I still pal around with. A number of people at the University of Washington. I've grown up here my entire life in the Seattle area, and still hang out with people that I've known for some cases 50 years. So it's very, very fun. At the same time, I love walking into a new conference or a new meeting and not knowing anybody and just say, "Hi, I'm Brent. What do you like to do for fun when you're not working?" So power of the people, you bet.
Yeah, I noticed when we chatted earlier this week, you talked about coming back from a client meeting in person and out of town.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So it sounds, I'm curious as to your experience in your particular industry, because I think every industry is a little bit different based on the client relationships, about the default to Zoom, which many of us have just continued that default, versus driving to Yakima to client. Can you talk a little about how that dynamic has sort of either, helped or shifted in your business?
It's certainly more efficient to hop on a Zoom call for sure, but there's something meditative about driving 2 hours to visit, whether it's a prospective employer or a client. You get many kudos these days for driving 2 or 3 hours just to see somebody, and yeah, I think you have better conversations. So, and maybe it's because I'm an old guy now, I don't know, but business will continue to be. I think it's going to continue to be face to face, in person, for many years to come.
So I'm going to ask you a hot or not that I asked the guest we had last week on. He happened to be a cougar. And
I'm
so
sorry.
I know my Golden Domer friend over here is going to now she's going to take a quick siesta while we talk. But I have to ask, hot or not, the Apple Cup, is the Apple Cup still a thing?
Absolutely, it's a thing, and I think it'll continue to be a thing for a long, long time. I think it's been going for what, over 100 years?
Well, yeah, well over 100. Yeah, and we tend to be on the right side of the ledger more often than not. But
yeah.
We talk about relationships, and I guess from a standpoint, from going from Pac 8 to Pac 10 to Pac 12 to Pac nothing, basically, at least this relationship stays on. And I think just as I look around the business relationships that I've had, there's a lot of good-natured rivalries, regardless of schools. Do you find yourself having those conversations with friends? Mostly, I think, all very positive, but how important are those alliances and allegiances?
They're pretty critical. I get to know a lot of some of our competitors. All the insurance companies, well, the health plans at least, all the health plan insurance companies in the state of Washington have broker advisory councils. So they select a handful of folks from the larger, more prominent firms. And I've been a part of those for years and years and years. And we get together at times quarterly or semi-annually. And you get to hear different perspectives. But generally speaking, we're all trying to drive down the cost of healthcare. We're trying to do our very best for our clients indeed. Our firm tends to dig a little deeper, I should say, and maybe create and bring some more different creative solutions to the table. And some of that has to do with the fact that we work on a retainer and not on a commission.
And I'm curious, you've mentioned a few different types of relationships, very long-standing relationships that you have that are obviously close to you personally as well as to the business. Do you have any advice to folks around what's been, most successful in keeping those relationships? Like what do you do to foster those and maintain those?
Check in, just say hi, how you doing? And write down what you talk. If you can't remember, write down what you talked about. Right? It's basic communication skills, I think, and helping people out when they're maybe looking for a job. Right? Just being a friend when they need one, even though they may not know they need one. and it's doing the right thing for your buddies, your friends, your customers, and your community. That's really what our firm's all about, and I'll go to my grave feeling that way.
Before we go to break, because I don't want you to go to the grave right now, we have lots more to talk about. But before we go to break, what do you think is the most misunderstood aspect of employee benefits and let's keep it to the small and medium-sized businesses. Let's say that those employers of under 200 or under 250, yep. What is the most misunderstood thing for them?
How healthcare works. When to show their ID. Well, they know what to show all they want to do is, Dan, is to show their ID card and get an explanation of benefits back that shows that they owe a reasonable number. Whether that number is correct or incorrect is not the issue. The issue is the uncertainty of what healthcare is going to cost them, and they just want healthcare to be simpler. I think is what most Americans want. The government has stepped in and tried to provide some solutions to that. It, in my opinion, isn't working very well. But there are programs and health plans out there that are, let's just say, they're variable copay plans, where on your app you can say, you type in, I've got my knee hurts, and up will pop a bunch of knee doctors in your area. And it'll show you the exact amount that you will owe if you see that doctor. And it varies from doctor to doctor. And wouldn't you know, the most efficient, most high quality providers typically provide healthcare that is about 25 to 27% less expensive than the bad docs, let's just say. So there are Americans want healthcare to be simple, and it's not. And that's the most frustrating thing, I think, for a lot of folks.
Okay. Well, we are going to take our second break, give you a chance to catch your breath a little bit. We're going to take that short break to hear from our sponsors. And when we come back with our guest, Brent Schlosstein, for our Plead the Fifth section of the show, we're going to transition to a golf question. So get your tee out, ready to go, because we're going to tee up a great question here for you. Everybody else, don't walk away. We'll be right back with more of the Shrimp Tank.
Welcome back to the Shrimp Tank, where we interview the best and brightest CEOs and business thought leaders in the greater Puget Sound area and beyond. I'm Michelle Bomberger, and our guest today is Brent Schlosstein. For our next segment, we're going to kick off Plead the Fifth.
And I'm going to make Plead the Fifth very easy. I'm going to tee it up for you on the very first one. This is not going to be a hard one. You're not going to have to plead the fifth, although I might make you think a little bit. I don't know. We haven't talked about, I don't know the golf courses you've played around the world, but let me just ask you this. I'm going to give you the chance to play at a golf course you've never played at. What would be number one on your list? A golf course anywhere in the world that you're salivating, that at some point it's on your bucket list, and maybe it's a hard one to attain, but where would you play, Brent?
I would love to play Royal Portrush in Ireland. I was there. I went to the Ryder Cup last year in Rome, which was lovely. I had an opportunity to stick around for another week or so, and we played some golf in Ireland, but couldn't get on to Royal Portrush, and that was frustrating. To say the least.
Yeah. So in other words, you had your golf clubs with you. You were within within spitting distance and you had to leave. Yeah, that's that.
I bought a hat.
Yeah, you got to
I got a hat. Yeah, that was about it. So I was there with just myself and one other person, and it was difficult to get twosomes out
Sure.
on some of the key courses out there. So we did. If we had a bigger group of 8 or 10, it would have been probably doable.
All right.
All right, I have a follow-up question as a non-golfer that just struck me because I lived in Ireland for 2 years.
Oh.
And I'm curious, what is it about Scotland and Ireland that is so appealing to golfers? How is it different?
Golf was essentially invented in Scotland and Ireland, and back, well, hundreds of years ago, frankly, built on courses that were relatively flat, without trees in areas that were close to the ocean. And so therefore, many of the courses over there are what are called links style courses. And courses in the US typically aren't that way. They're typically courses that are carved through forests and trees and other things. So it's there aren't many link style courses in the US now, but there has been a bunch built in the last 25, 30 years or thereabouts. But that's kind of the history of the golf game and the elements from the ocean and all of that. Just a lot of fun.
I love it.
Well,
Thank you.
Michelle, I'll give both of you, but Bandon Dunes, for which my dog's been named, is basically, I think, the closest thing to Scotland and Ireland that you can find. In fact, it's been said that it's harder to get to Bandon Dunes than to Ballybunion. It's a tough drive. So if you ever go down there, there's a book called Dream Golf. That is a history. If you haven't read that, it's actually pretty interesting because it talks about the natural versus the bulldozed, and so it's kind of interesting there. All right, Brent, I'm gonna take you out of the employee benefits, out of the insurance, where you get to start a whole new business based on a hobby. Now, I know we've talked golf, we talked cornhole. I don't know if those are hobbies, but if we made you to have to turn a business into a hobby, what's the business and what's the hobby?
Wow. Turn a hobby into a business.
And I didn't say you had to monitor. I've had people, oh, I don't care about that. I really just want to know about the hobby.
Well, crazily enough, I enjoy. I'm on the board of Big Brothers Big Sisters Puget Sound. I had a big brother after my father passed away when I was a little guy. I'd like to figure out a way to turn volunteering in your local community into a business, if at all possible. That's the kind of stuff I'm looking forward to in my retirement, is spending more time on nonprofit boards. So giving back time is one way of turning it into a business. Yeah.
Right.
I love that. What a great organization. I'm so glad that you shared that.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So plead the fifth. What is the best book of any genre that you've recently read, and why do you call it out as your favorite?
Of any genre. Well, the one that I've read recently is called The Price We Pay by Marty McCary. It's a New York Times bestseller, and it was released about 4 years ago, but it goes into really good depth on how the healthcare system in this country got to where we are today, frankly. And it talks about commission-based consultants and things of that nature, and hospitals and insurance companies gouging. I caught a nonprofit hospital marking up a cost of a cancer medication from $4,000 a vial to $56,000 a vial. We eventually got the cost of the medication dropped by $1 million. So there's a lot of yuckiness built into the healthcare system, and the price we pay kind of sheds some light on that.
All right, this can be my last question, Brent. This is one I also like to ask, and especially with your industry, I'm interested to hear. What is the thing you like the most, and what is the thing you like the least in the industry today?
What I like the most is the innovation that is occurring in the healthcare space on the employee benefit side of things. Unfortunately, the innovation's not coming from the insurance companies, and it's not coming from the hospital system. So I talked about the bringing Fortune 500 consulting down to the mid-market. There's a ton of creative solutions that, and some of them are called we call them point solutions. But we've got an advanced health strategies team at our firm evaluating a number of these innovative solutions, and that's we brought those to the table. That's what I think is super fun, which is the bad part, the negative part of being in this business is the continued rising cost of healthcare. Everywhere. The medical debt is the #1 reason for bankruptcy in this country. I just learned that cities like Detroit, Chicago, and Los Angeles have their own ambulance fleets, and they don't have any insurance agreements with any insurance companies, which essentially gives them a license to charge whatever they want. And I know this firsthand because my daughter just had a claim down in Los Angeles from an LA County ambulance, and the bill was a bundle. So that's the part that I get most frustrated about.
Yeah, it's got to be rewarding to be able to get in there and at least shed some light on this really challenging space for folks. So I'm grateful that you've shared what you've learned. All right, one more question, then we're going to wrap.
You bet.
If you could have dinner with anyone, dead or alive, who would it be, and what would you be eating?
What would I be eating? Well, I probably wouldn't eat because I'd be asking a million questions. I mean, when I cook, I like a nice steak for sure. I do like chili and sea bass really a lot. We're cooking that at home every once in a while these days. I would love to get into the brain of. I'm a golf junkie, so I would love to get in the brain of Jack Nicklaus, and understand how he did what he did. Now, I think it was because of competition, maybe wasn't as deep as it is today, but he was an athlete that I grew up admiring when I was a kid, and is still one of the greatest of all time. So how about that?
That's awesome. So Brent, thank you so much for being a guest today on the Shrimp Tank. For our listeners that want to get in touch with you or learn more about Alera, how can they get more information?
They can email me at brent.schlosstein@aleragroup.com, or frankly, give me a call at 425-830-1601.
Thanks so much. And for our listeners, make sure you check out all the replays at shrimptankpodcast.com/Seattle, or wherever you get your podcasts, SoundCloud, Spotify, Apple, iHeart, and follow our social media pages on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram.
All right, Brent, it's been a pleasure. I realize we have a lot in common, everything from golf to the University of Washington to provisors to a whole bunch of things. I think we're about the same age. So this has been a lot of fun for me, and hopefully we'll get out on the golf course soon and talk some more. Thank you for being such a great guest. Michelle, as always, thank you. I hope you have a tremendous rest of the summer. Everybody, do exactly what Michelle says. Like us on all of our social media pages. Subscribe. I am saying we are going to take a month off. We're taking a brief hiatus after 8 years we've been going nonstop. and it's to make some changes. We're doing some collaboration with our Boca Raton friends, and so we're in the midst of doing some cool things, and we need the space to do it. So we're just going to take a breather for a month, but we will be back. So please make sure you subscribe to get that next episode. In the meantime, be safe, be well, and be prosperous, because until next week, the shrimp is back in the tank. So long.
I've been feeling like a shark in a shrimp tank. Big fish, small pond, and the